Assalamu alaikum everyone. Welcome to another Ramadan Reminders. Alhamdulillah, we're at day 10 of our reminder, and we're back with Shaykh Thaqib doing the metaphors of the Quran. So, as usual, any questions, please use the chat, and inshallah, we can ask the questions at the end. And without any delay, now I'll just pass it over to Shaykh Thaqib.
Thank you. جزاك الله خير. طيب. Let me just for 1 minute. Take that off. There we go. All right. Oh, sorry. Let me just get these slides where we need them, so that then when we look at them, it'll be a case of we'll see them together and in order. All right. That's fine. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا اللهم أخرجنا من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمنا بنور الفهم وارزقنا بمعرفة العلم وسهل أخلاقنا بالحلم وجعلنا مما يستمعون القول فيتبعون أحسنه آمين 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 أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Yes, so as it was just mentioned, we continue on with the similitudes that the Quran draws for us to reflect upon. And today, in this reminder, inshallah, we will look at how the Quran mentions the reality of this world. And the Quran employs the natural phenomena of this world, particularly the cycle of life and what is witnessed, as to draw on many fundamental realities facing our condition or our state as humans. And we'll be looking at those verses that draw upon the similitude of this world and for what it posits as being fleeting and short-lived, as well as how losing sight of that inevitable truth can lead to being beguiled by it, and what really underpins the susceptibility to being beguiled by this world is one of a perspective or a lack of. So the perspective of disbelief, as in the denial of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, his oneness, a return, a resurrection, an accountability, a consequence to our choices, can be said to be very much the informing perspective, allowing for beguilement to occur in oneself in regard to the reality of this world and the purpose in which Allah has sent us here and for what reasons we are being placed upon this earth. And then likewise, we can see in the Quran how Allah will mention the believers and their relationality to the reality of this world and which perspective they try to keep themselves with as they wade through the world and its trying waters. So let's move first to the first of these ayahs, which is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Surah Yunus, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم إنما مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء إن أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض مما يأكل الناس والأنعام حتى إذا أخذت الأرض زخرفها وزينت وظن أهلها أنهم قادرون عليها أتاها أمرنا ليلا أو نهارا فجعلناها حسيدا كأن لم تغن بالأمس كذلك نفصل الآيات لقوم يتفكرون. So the life of this world is just like rain. We send down from the sky, producing a mixture of plants which humans and animals consume. Then just as the earth looks at its best, or just as the earth looks its best, beautifully perfectly beautified, and its people think they have full control over it. There comes to it our command, by night or by day. So we mow it down as if it never flourished yesterday. This is how we make the signs clear for people who reflect. Another ayah, there's many ayahs, but these are the ones that been chosen to look at for highlighting the fleeting and short-lived reality of this world. واضرب لهم مثل الحياة الدنيا كماء إن أنزلناه من السماء فاختلط به نبات الأرض فأصبح حشيما تذر الرياح وكان الله على كل شيء مقتدرا المال والبنون زينة الحياة الدنيا والباقيات الصالحات خير عند ربك ثوابا وخير أملا. And give them a parable of this worldly life. It is like the plants of the earth, thriving, then sustained by the rain we sent down from the sky. They then soon turn into chaff, scattered by the wind, and Allah is fully capable of doing all things. Wealth and children are the adornment of this worldly life, but the everlasting good deeds are far better with your Lord in reward and in hope. So, in these ayahs highlighting the fleeting and short lived reality, there is much to be drawn on in aligning ourselves or reminding ourselves of how we should take note of how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, through the natural phenomena, is telling us and showing us that things do come to a height of fruition, to a point of where they've come to a sense of completion, but only then to come to an outcome of withering and an absolute end. This is in this particular ayah in Surah Yunus of the feature of being mentioned, and its people think they have full control over it. And this is quite profound because in this aspect of us tillering the land and doing all the efforts we do to secure our provision, and here we can say by the mentioning of the rain coming and the land becoming, reaching its most idyllic, its most stunning form, it's been preceded. It's been preceded by a lot of effort, a lot of human effort. And I think, and this is where the Quran is reminding us that you can even fall into this idea that you have full control over it. But it only culminates in what? That it is to be leveled. It's to mow it. Allah will bring it to its end, where it's seen once it was and now no longer is. And this is to remind us that that is very much our own existence. We are in this cycle of existence. As Imam al-Haddad, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his great work, The Lives of Man, spells out against those 5 cycles of our stages of existence, the first of which has already happened, and that was in the presence of Allah and experiencing the knowledge of Allah in the place where we were taken, or where the covenant was taken of, am I not your Lord? And then we are at this stage of existence, which we know is one of the most fleeting, if not the fleeting stages of existence. As it says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, قَالَ كَمْ لَبِثْتُمْ فِي الْأَرْضِ عَدَدَ السِّنِينَ. When it's asked, come the day of judgment, and how many years did you linger in this earth? قَالُوا لَبِثْنَا يَوْمًا وَبَعْدَ يَوْمٍ فَاسْأَلِ الْعَادِينَ. We lingered, what was it, just a day or two. And this is a very important point for the believers, because they understand that this world is, in its fleeting and short-lived nature, it is one that we are passing through and taking lessons, and it's rather, the world is a bridge and not a place that we become so obsessed in a sense of building. Now, hopefully we get through what the intended verses for the time given, and we see how this is balanced, but that balanced as in an understanding of how to approach the world, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is reminding us in these verses the fleeting and short-lived nature of the world, the passing nature of the world, and it's being done mainly so that we are what, as the Quran mentions elsewhere, and those are the following verses, where we can become beguiled by the world, where the world becomes our purpose and our consequence of meaning, and everything becomes focused on the world and what it's about, materialism and the gains. And this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the beguiling aspect and calls out to the jinn and the ins. يا معشر الجن والإنس ألم يأتيكم رسل منكم يقصون عليكم آياتي وينذرونكم لقاء يومكم هذا قالوا شهدنا على أنفسنا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا وشهدوا على أنفسهم أنهم كانوا كافرين. And that's why Allah will ask, on O assembly of the jinn and humans, did messengers not come from among you, proclaiming my revelations and warning you of this coming, the coming of this day of yours? Reference obviously to Yawm al-Qiyamah. And they will say, we confess against ourselves, for they have been deluded by their worldly life. So غَرَتْهُمُ الْحَيَاةُ الدُّنْيَا. And we'll speak about that in a second when we speak about the state of disbelief and the perspective that leads to this ghurur, because it's aligned, the ghurur, the delusion of the worldly life, is aligned to the perspective of disbelief as being the source of why one is more likely to then become deluded by this world and its ornamentation. And they will testify against themselves that they were disbelievers, as it ends on Surah Al-An'am. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling out the beguiling aspect is this غرور غرتكم الحياة الدنيا يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم ويخشوا يوما لا يجزي والد عن ولده ولا مولود هو جاز عن والده شيئا إن وعد الله حق فلا تغرنكم الحياة الدنيا ولا يغرنكم بالله الغرور. O humanity, be mindful of your Lord, and beware of a day when no parent will be of benefit to their child, nor will a child be of benefit to their parent. Surely Allah promise is true. So do not let the life of this world deceive you, nor let the chief deceiver deceive you about Allah. Reference to Shaitan. And so here we're being reminded of what? How the world, in the way that it is, can be a beguiling aspect to it. But what features of it are beguiling? What we've already understood in the previous verses is forgetting how short and how fleeting it is, and how that should put us in a purposeful place, in a sense of wanting to invest in this dunya, so that we are coming to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with a harvest that is eternal, which yield is one of eternal benefit. And hence Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in furthering explaining where the ghurur, this delusion, this beguilement is coming, can have its most bearing, is from that state of disbelief, because disbelief does not recognize that there is the one who endows, the one who gives, the one who gives blessings, the one who extends to everything personal in our lives and that outside of us. He is the mun'im, the one who gives blessings to everything that we can identify as a source of sustenance, as a source of support. It is all from him. And disbelief fundamentally does not acknowledge this. And hence, kufr, as it's well known, is another translation of being ungrateful, as well as kufr, as well known to be a translation of being covering up, to cover up that which is obvious. And interestingly as well, kafir in classical Arabic is also referred to zari', the one who covers the seed, as in the planter, like the farmer, is also kafir, because it covers up the seed, it covers up the blessing. This is what the farmer does. So the kafir is also used for the sower, if you would say, the one who sows the seeds into the ground and then covers them up. So kufr is essentially this. It's a covering up, and it covers up that which is made so obvious to us. And it does it in replacement with what? الذين اتخذوا دينهم لهوا ولعبا وغرتهم الحياة الدنيا فاليوم ننساكم كما نسوا لقاء يومهم هذا وما كانوا بآياتنا يجحدون. Those who took this faith of Islam as mere amusement and play and were deluded by their worldly life, Allah will say, today we will ignore them just as they ignored the coming of this day of theirs and for rejecting our revelations. The key terms here are lahwan wa la'ib. Of here is where the world becomes this place of delusion, or we can be deluded by. Lahu, amusement, and how we see much of this is tried to and is replacing any sense of seriousness about ourselves and being purposeful and being mindful that there is a real consequence to what we are doing, to the actions we do. They bear a serious consequence. They bear a consequence of eternal consequences. And so lahu, amusement, is being marked here as the very thing that beguiles us because it takes us away. It makes us become unintending to what we need to intend to, because we rather fill it with that is very much appeasing to our lower self or our capricious aspects, our egos. And it's easy. Amusement is always easy. And la'ib is something the Quran as play, and literally la'ib is said of that which is done in childhood. Lahu is after those years, but la'ib is particularly that which is done by children. And there's a sense that the Quran is also calling out that those who have been beguiled by this world have not learnt to move beyond these two very deluding features of the world, one of amusement and play. They become consumed in that, as a result forgetting this outcome, and as a result not sowing for the hereafter and what is was to be of a reward. Similarly, as you see, the ayah goes on, as the ayahs in Jathiyah, قالوا وما هي إلا حياتنا الدنيا نموت ونحيا وما يهلكنا إلا الدهر وما لهم بذلك من علم إن هم إلا يظنون. Wow, I mean, it's amazing. These are the same reasons we can see. You can see all these reasons, exact same reasons today, right? And they argue there is nothing beyond our worldly life. We die, others are born, and nothing destroys us but the passage of time. Yet they have no knowledge in support of this claim. They only speculate. It's worth going back to our initial ayahs, which actually lay the foundations for similitude, which were the ones of what? The earth being brought to life, if you remember, it being fleeting and short-lived, but it being brought back to life and reaching this perfectly beautified, decoration, ornament, right? And in that cycle, that's the point. The earth is always showing us the cycle of life and death. And so the beguiling aspect that's being referred to here in the state of disbelief in Jathiyah, where they've just literally said there's nothing beyond this world, right? It's just this. They've missed the entire point that Allah shows us, even in the natural phenomena that's all around us, is that things come back to life and they are given death and they come back to life. And in similar ways, that is exactly how Allah will bring us back to life in the next world, to face what we made as outcomes to the choices we did in this world. And the ayahs in Surah Kahf, the ayah in Surah Kahf is again is one that underscores this attitude that informs the disbeliever, or the state of disbelief, as there's nothing beyond our worldly life. And that is that what they can be, some for sure, is الذين دل سعيهم في الحياة الدنيا وهم يحسبون أنهم يحسنون صنعا. And they are those whose efforts are in vain in this worldly life, while they think they are doing good. And that the better way to understand that ayah as well is to note that sa'yuhum is an indication of immense effort. Like they really strive in the life of this world, and it's a source of misguidance. And in that they estimate and consider what they're doing is yuhsinuna sun'a, is what they have done and what they produce is of perfection. I mean, it says good, and what they think are what they are doing is good. But there's some really interesting points here, in that when Allah is talking about how they then take to the material world, as this is the world, this is the only world we have, and then speaks of it there in the ayah in Surah Kahf, they deal with the world with a degree of excellence towards the world, in that they strive in this ihsan, yuhsinuna sun'a. And the sun'a aspect is that which is producing something with itqan. This is sun'a, is to produce something with a real effort and excellence. And what the ayah is capturing for us is what? Is that this state of disbelief doesn't mean that they will, on the contrary, they will be more attentive to the dunya, more attentive to the dunya, and produce the dunya in ways that are, features that will make you think, wow, right? And this is dalla sa'yuhum fil hayati dunya. All of their effort has gone into the life of this world, and as a result, they'll produce amazing things that will bewilder you and make you think, wow, right? How are they doing this? Yuhsinuna sun'a. Okay, that's why that aspect of them saying there's ihsan in their sun'a, but it's an excellence that is of no benefit to them in the end, right? And questionably, even in the dunya. I mean, much of the technological advancements that have been now developed in this age that we're in, there's a lot to be argued against it in the disadvantage aspects of what they're producing as conditions to the human being, right? It's allowing certain things, which are obviously, you can see that from one positive aspect, but the fallout, the side effects of it, are they, they're greater than the good that they are so-called allowing us to partake in. So the dunya is mentioning it's been mentioned in the Quran with great caution, as in how we encroach upon it, our relationality to it, how we should perspectively, what we should think about it, and how we should see it, and then as a result, how and what we should be doing by way of actions. And this is why, when it comes to the believers, right, and we understand that the believer, the state of belief, inshallah, informs us that when we look at the world, we look at it as a means to a greater end. We look at it as a bridge. And for that, Allah says in respect to that, and this is speaking to the Messenger ﷺ, but still it replies, is وَابْتَغِ فِي مَا أَتَاكَ اللَّهُ الدَّارَ الْآخِرَةَ وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ وَلَا تَبْغِ الْفَسَادَ فِي الْأَرْضِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَا يُحِبُّ الْمُفْسِدِينَ. Rather seek the reward of the hereafter by means of what Allah has granted you. You see? So this is a very clear ayah that's saying, well, we take the means of dunya and we are using it for the greater goal. Yes? وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا أَحْسَنَ اللَّهُ إِلَيْكَ. And for that, then be good to others, as Allah has been good to you. And do not seek to spread corruption in the land, for Allah certainly does not like the corruptors. And equally, in Surah A'raf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying in respect to the believers is قُلْ مَنْ حَرَّمَ زِينَةَ اللَّهِ الَّتِي أَخْرَجَ لِعِبَادِهِ وَالطَّيِّبَاتِ مِنَ الرِّزْقِ قُلْ هِيَ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا فِي الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا خَالِصَةً يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ كَذَلِكَ نُفَصِّلُ الْآيَاتِ لِقَوْمٍ يَعْلَمُونَ. Ask, O Prophet, who has forbidden the adornments and lawful provisions Allah has brought forth for His servants? Say they are for the enjoyment of the believers in this worldly life, but they will be exclusively theirs on the day of judgment. This is how we make our revelations clear for people of knowledge. And this is, it's again a beautiful ayah, because what is it saying? In as much as we just proceeded speaking of the great caution that the dunya is, and the pitfall that it can be, and the beguiling element that it has, that is far greater with, and likely to be, and most with those who are in the state of disbelief, because they do not see a greater purpose to why Allah has put us in this world, and we have a maqsad, أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Do you really think that you've just been created like this, just for abath, just for folly, and to us there is not your return? And this is why We see the Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala draws this comparison as well as a final thing for us to look at, is that where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, um, excuse me, وما هذه الحياة الدنيا إلا لهو ولعب وإن الدار الآخرة لهي الحيوان لو كانوا يعلمون. This worldly life is no more than play and amusement, but the hereafter is indeed the real life, if only they knew. And you see, it's this that a well-known it's well-known lines of poetry. They've been memorized by many scholars, and they were taught by many great teachers previously to students as a way of reminding us the inescapable reality of this world and the encountering states that it's inevitable that we will encounter while in this world. And they're in a couplet. ثمانية تجري على الناس كلهم ولا بد للإنسان يلقى الثمانية. There's 8 that will occur on all people, on any person, on every person, without a doubt. ولا بد للإنسان يلقى الثمانية. And it's without a doubt that a person will meet these 8 as the reality of the experiences of this world. There's 8 experiences that are without a doubt that we will have in this world. Sururun wa huznun wa ijtima'un wa furqatun. Sururun, happiness. Wa huznun, sadness. Wa ijtima'un, being together. Wa furqatun, separation. Wa usrun wa yusrun, difficulty and ease. Thumma suqmun wa afiyah, illness and well-being. These 8 we are bound by these 8 in the sense of knowing that we will encounter them in this world. And this is one of the powerful things that we know about the transitory black point of this, as we said, the short-livedness of this world, the fleeting aspect of this world, because those 8 states that we will inevitably encounter while in this world are always changing. Happiness can become sadness, sadness can become happiness. Today we are together with loved ones, tomorrow we separate, they move on. We have situations that are faced with difficulty, and life will tell us they do follow ease. There's difficulty, but it does follow ease. And if there's illness, in the illness there'll be moments of some feeling of well-being. And most illnesses, inshallah, we go through them to come back to a place of full well-being. And lastly, just to put this in context, as the Prophet ﷺ, he said in a hadith, and it's a beautiful hadith, about trying for us to remind ourselves how we are to try and be in this world and navigate the world. He said, لَيْسَ خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ تَرَكَ الدُّنْيَا لِآخِرَتِي وَلَا الْآخِرَةَ لِدُنْيَا. The best of you isn't the one who has left the world for their hereafter, nor the one who has left the hereafter for the world. وَلَكِنْ خَيْرُكُمْ مَنْ أَخَذَ مِنْ هَذِهِ وَهَذِهِ. Rather, the best of you is the one who knows how to take from this and to take from that, as in using both as a way of preparing ultimately for the return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why we end with another statement of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. He said, ni'mal mati'atu dunya fartahiluha tablughukum al-akhirah. The best mount is the mount of the dunya. Fartahiluha. Therefore, ride the mount. Take the mount and know that you are traversing with this mount. Tablughukum al-akhirah. And it will get you to the hereafter. Inshallah, that will be done, inshallah, in ways of success for us all. Jazakallah khairan. Barakallah feekum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah. Jazakallah, Shaykh. Alhamdulillah. We don't have any questions online. So just a quick update. Tomorrow, inshallah, we have Shaykh Abbas. Shaykh Abbas will be covering the character imperative at the same time, 5:15, inshallah. And this Thursday, we don't have Shaykh Thaqib. They're busy elsewhere, so we've got a cover with Shaykh Tanweer. Inshallah, Shaykh Tanweer will be doing the Thursday class. So that's the update.
Yeah,
So Jazakallah, Shaykh Thaqib. Inshallah, we see you again next week on Tuesday.
inshallah. I'll be Monday.
Jazakallah, everyone.
I'm changing
Oh,
as well.
sorry, Monday. Oh, yeah, we've changed Monday. Yeah, we'll
So
update everyone, inshallah.
some changes are going on, but khair, inshallah. Tabarakallah. Thank you all, inshallah, and hope you all have a blessed iftar today. Make dua at that time, and may Allah facilitate for us ease and khair, and for the ummah particularly. Obviously, we are never forgetting our dear brothers and sisters in Palestine and in Gaza and everywhere in the world where they're being troubled and tested. Allah bring them ease and relief in His way. Kun latifan bina fi kulli nazilatin lutfan bin jami'an jamilan bihi ahwalu tanhasiru. As Imam said, he calls on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to always be kind and subtle, latif, in every tribulation that besets, a kindness that envelops that tribulation. And I think that's we ask that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah gives every one of those, being every one of our brothers and sisters and Muslims all over the world that are being tested, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shows them His magnificence of being the Latif one, inshallah.
Jazakallah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.